Available now on Hulu is the 2020 drama Nomadland, starring Frances McDormand and David Strathairn, and a lot of actual people, a lot of non-actors, which I actually like. This basically is about a woman who has found herself in very deep financial straits and has moved into her vehicle. She lives out of her van, sort of turned her van into a camper, and she works at various seasonal jobs. She is a nomad. She travels the country here and there, or the region, living where she can, working where she can, making enough to continue to get by, and is, you know, it's not the ideal circumstance, but she's sort of okay with that. This movie gets into that lifestyle, which is a thing for a lot of people by choice or necessity, and you see how somebody manages to survive when, you know, your home is on four wheels and is dependent upon an engine running, and you get having continued employment somewhere when employment is not necessarily the most copious thing in the country right now. What's interesting is that it doesn't make the people in this film, and again, my understanding is that a lot of the people you see in this movie are essentially playing themselves, or they're people who actually live or have lived that way. At some point, McDormand is from a fellow worker at an Amazon warehouse who lives the same sort of lifestyle. She's invited to this sort of gathering of the nomads in the desert, where she learns there are like little classes on how to get by and how to better make use of the resources you have or find resources. And a lot of people are, you know, exchanging their philosophies on the lifestyle, their personal experiences, and it's fascinating. I knew people did this, but I didn't know all the details of how it worked. And one of the things I really loved about this, it's depressing to a degree, but it's also very hopeful, in that a lot of these people, either they've made peace with the fact that they're living this way, or they've chosen to live sort of outside of the norm, and they're okay with it. And there's just a tremendous amount of dignity and humanity shown in this movie. McDormand is never, she never seeks pity from anybody. She never really seeks much help from anybody if it's not absolutely essential. And there's just a lot of, I don't know if nobility is the right word, but there's a lot of pride in a good way, and self-reliance and self-assurance in her and most of the people you see in the film. I really like that they use the non-actors. Non-actors can go either way. I've seen some movies where they use non-actors and it makes a film feel awful or really phony, but I've seen movies where they use non-actors and it makes it feel like a documentary. And this really feels almost like a documentary. It feels so genuine. And as somebody who enjoys traveling the corners of the country, it gave me a little taste of that. Some beautiful scenery. This is really well shot. This is the kind of thing that I really would have enjoyed seeing in a theater. I think this would have found a pretty good audience in the theater if it was given the opportunity. It's certainly one of those movies that maybe it's just the way I think, but sometimes I'll watch things streaming or that premiere on Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or whatever, and I feel like, wow, this is really good. Like I feel like I'm getting away with something watching this at home. This should be a theatrical experience. And Nomadland is one of those. The performances are so good, and the story is so interesting. Simple, but interesting. And it's this strange beauty that you find in simplicity and in desperation might not be the right word, but just people doing their thing and not pitying themselves and not seeking pity. They're just getting by, and they're okay, and that's fine. And Strathairn is solid. I mean, when is he not? McDormand is great, because when is she not? And it was a really interesting film. It wasn't terribly long. I would have been okay if it was even longer, just because this really simple journey this woman was taking and the people she would meet, it really felt like they just shot interviews with these various people, and maybe they shot the cutaways of McDormand nodding or her half of the conversation later. I don't know. It just felt so authentic, like very few movies do. And I think it would not have felt anywhere near that if you had actors playing these parts. It would have felt like people reading lines. And this felt, whether this is accurate or not, it felt like people just telling their stories, and their stories were interesting. They weren't always the story any of them probably would have chosen to be telling, but it's what they had, and they were okay with it. So I'll just talk in circles otherwise how much I like this movie. It is available now on Hulu. I'm sure it'll eventually get a home video release. This is Nomadland.